Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second part of my Rise to War player guesses Rise of Kingdoms Commander Strengths. The goal of this series of videos is for me to try and predict how good or bad a particular commander is, and then for you guys to give me feedback. That way I can learn as much about this game as possible before June 20th, which is when I will be starting in my Jumper Kingdom. So please, if you know a lot about the game, feel free to either give me some constructive criticism / feedback or just make fun of my terrible predictions. Welcome back, everyone. In part 1 of this video series, I talked about these top 4 legendary commanders, so I figure I'll just move on and do the next 4, starting with El Cid. We have Famous Warrior, deals direct damage, disables the skills and normal attacks for 1 second. That seems very, very good in my opinion. I'm the type of player that likes controlling opponents. If anybody has played like Magic the Gathering or other card games, I'm a big fan of control decks and just making it so my opponents don't get to do what they want to do. Poem of El Cid, the attacks of troops led by this commander, a 10% chance to deal extra damage factor of 500. I've been told that damage factor means that it will deal this much pure damage, so to speak. This amount of damage will not be reduced by like defense or any damage reductions. A 10% chance, that's not a super high chance, so I don't know how good that part is. Arch units get 10% increased defense, 5% increased march speed. March speed does seem very useful in this game. Defense bonus, I'm not sure. I've heard that health bonuses tend to be the best, but maybe this pairs up with some health because as defense goes up, effective HP of your units goes up, so that might actually be pretty decent. Unyielding, when you have 50% less of their units remaining, they gain increased damage and increased march speed until the troops are disbanded. 25%, that seems like a lot of march speed based on other skills that I've seen so far. So this seems like it could be pretty clutch for chasing somebody down after a close battle, or just getting yourself out of there after a close battle. Out of control, arch units gain 5% increased attack, 5% increased defense, and deal 2% extra damage to infantry units. 2% extra doesn't seem like a ton of extra damage against infantry, and as far as I know, archers are supposed to counter infantry anyway. So I guess this kind of just makes them better against what they're supposed to counter. That being said, I have heard that infantry is probably the most popular type of unit to use, so this would come into play quite a lot, I imagine. Overall, I think El Cid is probably A tier-ish for PvP, particularly because of Famous Warrior. However, it does seem like he also provides his army with quite a lot of move speed and some pretty nice archer buffs as well. We'll move on to Julius Caesar. Indomitable Army. For the next 5 seconds, troops led by this commander gain 10% increased attack and defense and 10% increased damage. This goes all the way up to a 30% damage bonus on top of increasing attack. I assume this increases like base attack, and then the damage bonus would then apply on top of that, which seems pretty reasonable, although I've heard that attack bonuses in this game are the worst type of bonus. Divine Julius, this is a long one. They take 3% less damage, 60% of your remaining, 10% chance that whenever they're attacked, reduces further damage by 10% for 3 seconds. Can only trigger once every 5 seconds. So it's always a 10% damage reduction, and then for 3 seconds, every 5 seconds, it's a 30%. So like at best, that's effectively a 18%-ish, doing some quick math. So a total of like 28% damage reduction seems all right. City Killer, when attacking a city, 10% chance to reduce enemy troops' defense by up to 30% for 3 seconds. I don't know how often people attack cities in this game, so this skill in particular is very difficult to judge. I suppose if you need a commander to go and crush a city, maybe Julius Caesar is good at that. But the fact that this doesn't apply in the open field, I'm not sure how awesome that is. 3% increased troop capacity, meaning he gets to bring extra units along. In Rise to War, that's an extremely good bonus. So I imagine it's probably pretty good here, maybe. I suppose it could just mean that you lose a whole bunch more units at the end if Julius Caesar's not very good otherwise. And this buffs up Indomitable Army for the next 5 seconds. We'll just read with expertise. Deals direct damage for the next 5 seconds. Troops gain 20% increased attack speed. Sorry, attack, defense, and 30% increased damage. So that's just buffing up this. So it was 20% and then 30%. And this is 20%. So does it stack on top of itself, or does this just add damage to it? This has 5 seconds. This one is also 5 seconds. 20, 30. Seems kind of awkward if it only adds 400 damage. So if anybody wants to clarify on that one, overall, I'm not particularly impressed by Julius Caesar, if I have to be honest. Maybe I'm wrong about that, even though he's such a cool historical figure. In this game, I don't know, maybe like B or C tier, like potentially good for killing cities, but fighting out in the open field doesn't seem particularly great for that. Frederick the First. For the next 3 seconds, each attack has an 80% chance to deal extra damage. That is a very high chance to deal extra damage. That seems pretty good. Normal attacks of troops held by this commander have a 10% chance to heal. Can only trigger once every 5 seconds. That seems pretty solid, although it's only a 10% chance, so maybe not. Invasion increases all damage by 2% when attacking another governor city. So this feels like a better version of what Julius Caesar had. It only applies when you're hitting a city, but this is a 10% damage bonus, whereas Caesar's was a defense reduction. I guess it might depend on what troops you're fighting against in that city as which one comes out to actually be more effective outgoing damage. Troops led by this commander gain increased troop capacity. This guy seems actually pretty similar to Caesar so far. And for the next 3 seconds, each attack has a 100% chance. So it goes from an 80% chance for 800 to a 100% chance for 800 extra damage. That already seemed pretty good on its own. I have to say, let's see, troop capacity pretty good. Healing pretty decent. He feels to me kind of like a slightly better option than Julius Caesar. Seems okay actually in the open field, maybe a little bit better than Caesar for that. Pretty decent for cities as well. So I think I'll tentatively say he's like a B plus, maybe A minus tier. And moving on to Hannibal, very cool historical figure, very interesting guy. War elephants, of course. Deals direct damage, reduces their damage and defense. So, as I said in the first video, I'm a huge fan of debuffs because when you're in this big, these big mosh pit type fights, if you're debuffing an army and like 10 of your best friends are attacking that army, that means that all of those 10 friends are benefiting from this 25% defense reduction. So I think that is pretty decent, and reducing outgoing damage as well seems solid. Troops led by this commander consist of 2 different unit types. All their damage is increased. 3 or more different unit types. All of damage is increased by up to 10%. I don't know how viable running triple unit armies is. I have heard that in the early game, that's what you'll want to do because you're just not going to have enough like T3, T4, T5 troops of any given type. So this actually seems pretty solid for like KVK1 potentially, or the early game stuff. Attacking cities again, 10% chance to heal. So I think I like this a little bit better than Caesar or Frederick's attacking city skill, just because I do tend to gravitate towards healing in games. Increased troop capacity when he's in a battle outside of Alliance territory. Using a skill increases all damage dealt by up to 15%. So 10% extra troops and a damage bonus. So definitely an offensive-oriented skill since you have to be outside of Alliance territory. I feel like that's probably pretty easy for that part to be triggered, although maybe it's not. War Elephant Trample, so this upgrades War Elephants, deals direct damage to the current target, deals additional damage to up to 3 targets on the next turn, and decreases their damage and defense by 25% for 5 seconds. Okay, that seems quite nice. This is 400 damage, 25, 25, 425, 25, but then also, so it deals almost double the damage because it still does the initial 400 and then an extra 300. Same debuffs, except it hits up to 3 targets at a time. That seems quite solid. So overall, I would guess that Hannibal, at least for the early game, is probably like A+ tier, maybe borderline S tier. The only thing that I kind of don't like about him is that he has this that only applies when attacking cities. However, everything else for fighting out in the open seems pretty solid, especially that debuff from more elephants with the expertise. Let me know what you guys think about my assessment of these commander skills. I'm really trying hard to learn as much as I can about this game in the next couple of weeks before the jump starts. Rise of the Phoenix, over and out.